Well, what is going on, everybody? Welcome, everybody, into the Aftermath on the Overreaction Sports Network, powered by Believe. My name is Joe Miller. I'm the voice of the Aftermath, and you can find me on Twitter at Joe Miller Wired. You can find me on all social media platforms, although I don't really use most of them much outside of Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. Please do us a favor. Please like, please subscribe, whatever platform you are consuming this video, this vidcast on right now, whether it be YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter X. Please do us a favor. Please like, subscribe if you can. If you are not following the Overreaction Buffalo Sports handle, or whatchamacallit on Twitter, on X, please follow us, as well as follow me, follow Jerry, follow John. That way you can stay up to date on all of kind of the happenings. We've also got a lot of cool stuff going on. We've got a website, overreactionbuffalo.com, that has some very unique things that, as a Bills fan, you would probably find useful and helpful to include. A link there, a page there that's the Bills on the Wire, that aggregates and pulls in every national media outlet article, like from around the globe, I believe. So you don't have to hunt ESPN and NFLnetwork.com and whatever, FoxSports.com. You can literally go to just that one page, bookmark it, and everything that you need is right there. We also have a Discord channel. You can find that you can find all of this information in the actual the notes, the stuff that on the YouTube page or the YouTube, whatever, of this here actual show. So please do us a favor. Please like, please subscribe. If you're listening to this in podcast form as well, please leave us a review. And then, of course, as always, tell a friend. If you know somebody that might be interested in this show or our content, we would love to have them join us just like you. But as we always like to say, as I grab my cup of coffee, whether this podcast finds you around a cup of coffee, at the gym with your AirPods in, on the drive to work, or watching me live right now, let me just say one more time, welcome. As I sip my coffee. So good to have you. The Buffalo Bills were defeated by the Houston Texans on this past Sunday, dropping the Buffalo Bills to 3-2 in a game that looked, in the early stages, eerily similar to last week's game against the Baltimore Ravens. But before we get to what happened in this football game, before we get into the aftermath, John, Jerry, and I have a super cool event that we would like to let you know about, that we'd like to tell you about, that we would like to advertise, and we would love for you, Bills Mafia, to be a part of. So take a quick listen, a quick watch, and pay attention to this ad real quick.
The inaugural Buffalo Bills fan cruise. You don't want to miss this with the Overreaction Buffalo podcast live in the Royal Theater. Eric Molds, Jerry Ostrowski, John Fina, Overreaction Buffalo podcast on the world's newest, smoothest, grandest cruise ship, Royal Caribbean's Utopia of the Seas. March 3rd, 2025. 10 restaurants included, 13 bars, and we are including the deluxe drink package. Order any type of cocktail you'd like at any bar, and make sure to order the specialty Buffalo Bills cocktails.
All right, Bills fans, we only have a certain amount of these rooms, so you better get to our website quickly. BuffaloBillsFanCruise.com. On Utopia of the Seas, you don't want to miss this. Meet and greet with the players, VIP events, Bills trivia. It's all right here for you. March 3rd, Utopia of the Seas. BuffaloBillsFanCruise.com.
Absolutely, positively, assuredly to be a great time. Please go to Bills Mafia or the Fan Cruise website and sign up, or get at least some more information if you're interested in joining me, John, Jerry, and two more Buffalo Bills players that are yet to be announced for that event. But would love to have you join us March 3rd. It's a 5-day cruise, I believe. It's going to be a ton of fun. Getting into what I have now lovingly described starting last week. Last week was the first episode, the aftermath. I'd like to do an aftermath show after a victory and kind of see where that puts us. But as of right now, the aftermath is very much after 2 losses. But this is effectively how I'm feeling. I've got a lot of notes. I'm going to do my best to get you guys out of here on time, or in a decent amount of time. The Texans, watching this football game, and we watched the Texans last year a little bit, and I didn't get to see a whole lot of them. They were a fun story. And then obviously they were a fun story coming into this year. And then the Bills traded Stephon Diggs to the Texans, which kind of turned it more into I don't really want to pay attention. But the Texans are basically the new Buffalo Bills. Young, dangerous, hungry, nothing to lose. They got a young, gutsy quarterback with a great arm. They've got a young, talented wide receiver core with a savvy vet in Stephon Diggs, who is reliable. They've got a gutty defense with a defensive-minded head coach. We've watched this movie before as Bills fans. We saw this happen when the Bills drafted Josh Allen, and they had Sean McDermott, and they started getting good wide receivers, starting with John Brown, right, and Cole Beasley, and then Stephon Diggs was added, and then Emmanuel Sanders is that veteran kind of presence. And might I say even that this team has not been the same since letting Emmanuel Sanders go, letting that veteran presence go. Overall, the team plan for the Texans is just go kick ass until somebody stops you. That's basically their game plan. Go kick ass until somebody stops you. And that was, by and large, when you think back to 2020, that was even some of 2019. That was very much who we were as a football team. Just go kick ass until somebody stops you. I love it. Not only do I like it and do I love it, I miss it. I miss it as a Bills fan. I miss it as a member of Bills Mafia. And even when we look at last week's game and this week's game, and we look ahead to the Jets this next week, we knew that this stretch was going to be tough. I said when the season schedule came out, I said that like the first 8 weeks of this season are a grind. Like they're trouble. The back half, however, doesn't look quite so bad. It seemed like the schedule makers were kind of setting the season up to basically have the Dolphins kind of take that first place spot and then have the Bills chase them down, because the Dolphins schedule was completely the reverse. It was easy in the front and then somewhat heavy in the back or harder in the back. Well, as we know, the Dolphins are much like the Jets imploding. The greatest storyline going right now for the Buffalo Bills is the fact that the AFC East is the worst, probably the worst division in football, if not the worst, then one of the worst. Regardless of everything that we're going to talk about, regardless of everything we talked about last week, content creators, media people, and what we watched, and regardless of what we're going to talk about this week and even potentially in the next week, this division is still to be had by the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills are very much expected to come out on top of this division unless the wheels, completely come off. But the question, that we want to ask is, it seems like questions arose, and we had a lot of questions coming into the season, and more questions were asked. Right now, the question that I had, and I asked this question to Jerry Ostrowski, former Buffalo Bill, and one of my partners here in the Overreaction Sports Network, is there a book out on this offense? And Jerry thinks in some ways, yes, there is. Defenses know now to keep Josh Allen from rolling to his right, keep him in the pocket. They know kind of like what's going to happen. But I think for the most part, and Jerry agrees with me as well, in the end, this offense just is what it is right now. It just is what it is. Josh and the wide receivers and the offensive coordinator, Joe Brady, there's just an overwhelming lack of what seems to be synergy between the three of them. And I would probably throw Dalton Kincaid in that bucket. The only one that isn't marching to the beat of the same abysmal drum is James Cook, which it seems like every time he gets cooking, they do everything they can to take the football out of his hands, which I don't know. Maybe we'll see more of James Cook. Maybe they'll start to fix some of that. This offense, specifically in loud road game situations, is boring, predictable, ineffective, right? It lacks, in my opinion, and I think in your opinion as well, it lacks a consistent playmaker. Shakir is nice, and he was missed in this football game. But the question still remains if he can be that consistent chain mover guy an offense needs. And I know immediately there's a huge portion of Bills Mafia that you hear me say that. Maybe he can be that consistent chain mover. And you're like, yes, it's Shakir. Shakir's the guy. Okay. Because the reality is this offense, every offense requires one of those guys, a guy that consistently can move the chains for an offense, that can be reliable, that has sure hands, that can get open. Just doesn't seem like in the last 2 weeks we've seen a lot of that from the Buffalo Bills wide receivers. You know, we hoped coming into this year that Dalton Kincaid would be that guy, that it wouldn't maybe be a wide receiver. Maybe that moniker would be removed from Stephon Diggs, who got traded away, and it would move over to Dalton Kincaid. That's what we all thought. How is everybody going to eat? How are guys going to be available and open if there's nobody taking like serious coverage, taking attention from the defense? And a lot of us thought that was going to be Dalton Kincaid. I remember going back last year, there was a lot of conversations towards the end of the year. It was on the radio, content creators were saying it and stuff like that. And you could even say it this year too. Like, why don't the Bills use Dalton Kincaid the way the Lions use Sam Laporta? I mean, Dalton Kincaid was a first-round tight end. Why don't and Laporta went like I think late in the second. Why can't the Buffalo Bills use Kincaid the way that the Lions use Sam Laporta? Because he's dominant, he's reliable, he's all over the field, he makes huge plays at important times. Well, we could probably start with the fact that Dalton Kincaid isn't Sam Laporta. Probably the easiest place to start. There was a lot of negativity and strays thrown at Dalton Kincaid on Twitter this weekend over this football game. And the reality is, both from fans, Bills Mafia, as well as from the media, that some point Dalton Kincaid is going to have to become the player that we drafted, or at least that we thought we drafted. Otherwise, there's going to have to be a measure of moving on. Not moving on in the sense of like moving on, but changing what we're trying to do. Dawson Knox has become invisible, completely invisible in this offense. But when you look at what we've seen the last couple of weeks, when the Bills are in a loud environment, when the nature and structure of their offense and their dynamic changes to where they're dictating to defenses and they're allowing the crowd and the defense to dictate to them automatically by changing their sets, changing their motions, changing what they're trying to accomplish. If you still don't think that we need a wide receiver one, I'm not sure how to continue this conversation. And I'm probably going to say some things that might upset some people. What else would be new? If you don't agree with me, that's fine. You're allowed to talk to me about it on Twitter, or you can jump in the comments after the show. Especially, I do go through the comments after these YouTube shows post, and I try to respond if there's something there worth responding to. I'd love to have conversations about what I'm going to talk about. But as I said, we came into this season with questions, and I feel like we thought we got some answers the first 3 weeks of the season, but now it feels like there's even more questions potentially than before. And at the risk of literally repeating a lot of what I said last week, I'm going to pivot a little bit, right? Because there's a lot of blame to go around. There's a fun blame game, and then there's a fun, I guess there's a lot of sarcastic patronization going on, and there's a lot of sarcastic other like just shots being taken. Oh, so it isn't all Josh Allen's fault. Oh, so it isn't Sean McDermott's fault. Oh, so it isn't Joe Brady's fault. Oh, so it isn't this person's fault. I had one person in my Twitter mentions telling me that it was not Keon Coleman's fault that he got drilled in the back of the head with a football by Josh Allen. It wasn't his fault. If he didn't know that was a run play, or that it was a pass play, not a run play, that it was not his fault that he wasn't told that it was a pass play. I mean, it was an option. I believe it was an RPO, but regardless, it's week 5, bro. Like, it's week 5. How do you get to week 5 on the season and you still don't know what the play call is, or at least what the play call means or how to break it down? Not to mention it's a college play call. It wasn't some like play call that, for some lack of a better way of saying it, is like, a pros only, and college players have never run it before. It was sorry, my phone is dinging, which is driving me crazy. There's plenty of blame to go around. Josh Allen deserves blame. Joe Brady deserves a lot of blame. The wide receiver room, Dalton Kincaid deserves blame. And of course, Sean McDermott deserves blame too. You've got the last series where the Bills are backed up on the goal line. Josh Allen chucks the ball downfield, and you can clearly read the words on Sean McDermott's lips. Why are we not going for the first down? So then I push it back to you, because Sean McDermott took all the blame. In that situation, I need to be more aware of what we're trying to accomplish and just maybe go for the first down and move the sticks, right? Yada, yada. He was screaming that to somebody. So somebody somewhere, there was a breakdown, whether it was Joe Brady calling shot plays or Josh Allen just doing whatever Josh Allen wanted to do. We'll never get that answer because there's high character men at the top. Josh Allen, Sean McDermott, Joe Brady. They're all going to take the blame, which they all so far have. I expect to hear from Joe Brady, and I expect to hear him say that it was all his fault, just like he did last week. And I want to talk, believe it or not, about the wide receivers on this football team and this whole concept and phrase that everybody eats. But before I do that, I had what I believe is an epiphany about Josh Allen. And for those of you that know me well, I love to quote movies. I'm a big movie buff. I'm the kind of guy that I can get stuck on a movie where, I'll watch it over and over and over and over again, and then I'll get stuck on another movie. And I literally mean like every day, or even sometimes a couple times a day. I work from home, so there's noise. I use it as noise in the background. Once Good Morning Football is over and some other shows that I watch, I usually pop on a movie. So like, Ocean's 11 or Ocean's 13 or Last Vegas, or, pick a movie. One that Josh Allen loves is Wild Hogs. That's a movie I've seen 8,000 times. That thing you do, like, I'll just put a movie on and it'll just play and play and play until I move on to another one. So I'm a big movie buff. I'm a big movie quote guy. I've got buddies that I quote, like, we'll send movie quotes back and forth, and we'll actually not chart, but we'll make note of the fact that when we say a movie quote from a movie that we all love that like landed flat, that nobody got, it's like, yep, just said this quote, nobody got it. And then that's usually an LOL on the way back, because if you're a movie quote person, then you would know exactly what I'm talking about. All that, sorry, I digress. I had an epiphany about Josh Allen. And it's a movie reference, and I don't know that I've heard it made before, but it feels like, bang, I just nailed it. Like, this is Josh Allen. And it's not meant to be a diss. Josh Allen is a superstar. He is elite. He's one of the most gifted athletes, not just quarterback. He's one of the most gifted athletes that the NFL and professional sports has probably ever seen. You cannot argue it. He is that guy. He is, as Bruce Nolan likes to say, an alien. If you want that t-shirt, I think it's a Buff on Weck or somewhere. Bruce Nolan has an alien t-shirt with Josh Allen. Josh Allen is an alien. The problem is Josh Allen sometimes makes simple plays, simple throws hard. Sometimes his alienism, who he is and what he does and what he's capable of, overcomes and overwhelms his mind. It's fitting that Josh Allen likes to golf as much as he does, because if you golf, this is what golfers do. This is specifically what bad golfers do. And I don't mean bad golfers in the sense of I can't hit the ball straight, I slice all the time, my short game sucks. I'm not talking about bad golfer meaning I can't play the game and I'm not a good golfer. I'm saying bad golfer meaning that dude's got a really good swing. He's incredibly athletic. He just makes poor decisions on the golf course. There's ways to lower your score on a golf course, and there's ways to aggravatingly and annoyingly and at your own fault increase your score at a golf course, and there's nobody to blame but yourself. There are shots that you should take and shots that you shouldn't. Can you make certain shots? Yes, you probably can. Are you going to do it consistently and every time? No. If you could, you'd be a professional golfer. But what we, men and women that play this game a lot, find ourselves in is a situation or a moment where the best choice at 230 yards is to lay up. I'm going to give myself a second shot that I've got in my bag that I'm super consistent at. I know that if I hit the ball, if you've got 230 to go, I know from 150 with my 8-iron, I am money. I can land it on the green. So I'm going to back down. I'm going to hit a wedge shot to 150. And then I'm going to hit my 8-iron, 150 in, and I'm going to hit the green. That's not what we do. It's not what Josh Allen does on a football field. We basically pull that club out of the bag, and we are going to rip, whether it's a 3-iron or a 4-iron or your 5-wood, or a hybrid 3, we're going to rip a ball at a dot green from 230 yards away and pretty much assure ourselves we're going to end up in a hazard, out of bounds, or we're going to miss the green so bad that we're going to have to chip in 2 or 3 times to get there. So you're probably wondering, what is this epiphany, Joe? Well, this is part of it. But it came down to a movie for me. Josh Allen, if you've never seen the movie Tin Cup, Josh Allen is Roy McAvoy. Josh Allen is Roy McAvoy, Kevin Costner's character from the movie Tin Cup. Roy has, just as I was just describing to you, 237 yards to the hole. He's got a water hazard in front of him, what I believe is the Masters in the movie setup. The smart play, the winning play, because I believe he's leading at this moment, and I haven't really caught up on that movie. The smart play is to lay up. The smart play is to hit the ball in front of the water hazard, and then just take what's there, take what's ready, what's being given to you, so that you can take the winning shot and finish the tournament and win. That's what the smart play is. But Roy McAvoy in this movie is not that guy. Roy believes in his swing. Roy believes in himself. He's been here before. He knows that he's got this shot. He knows he's got the club in the bag. He knows with this ball with this lie on the fairway from where he's standing, I can draw it in, fade it in. I can stick the green right where I'm at from 237. I can make the impossible shot. I know I can. I've done it. You've all watched me do it before. One swing, Roy. One swing as he's addressing his ball. One swing. Just one. This is Josh Allen to a T. Very few times in my life am I like, nailed it. This, to me, is nailing it. One throw, Josh. One throw in his mind, right? He can make every throw on the field, Josh Allen. Regardless of the wide receiver, regardless of the defense, regardless of the situation, every throw for Josh Allen is a potential 6 points, a hole in one. Getting back to the movie. So Roy McAvoy, Kevin Costner's character in Tin Cup, one shot, one swing. One swing, Roy. One swing. He's saying that to him under his breath. One swing, Roy. His caddy's standing there like, you're out of your mind. You should lay up. The crowd, his girlfriend, what are you doing? You should lay up. Win the tournament. Lay up. The winning shot is the lay up. Just lay up. Roy's like, nope, can't do it. One swing. Watch this. The world is watching. The cameras are on me. I got this shot. So Roy tries the shot. He takes a swing. It's a beautiful shot. And as the percentages would tell you on a shot like that, he makes a beautiful swing, connects the ball. It's called nutting it when you hit it dead nuts on the sweet spot of the club, and he gets close. Hits the green, and then the ball proceeds in the movie to roll backwards into the water. Hits the hazard. Close. But close doesn't matter. It didn't work. It failed. It failed. That throw or that swing that you just made failed. Learn from it. Failed. But unfortunately for Roy, for the character in the movie, he doesn't learn from that mistake. Sounds starting to get a little familiar, a little close, too close for comfort. He believes he can make the shot. He knows he can. So even instead of, after that mistake, going up and moving to the drop zone and chipping on from there to kind of save face and like get out of the round where he needs to be, he's going to take a drop right there. Why? Because he can make that throw. I'm going to do it again. I can make this throw. I can make this shot. You can see where I'm bleeding over, right? He knows he can. So he does it again. Same result. Beautiful shot. Hits the green. Rolls back into the water. Undeterred, undetermined, and ready to prove to the world that he's got this shot. He tries it again. Bang, into the water. And again, bang, into the water. And again, bang, into the water. Then on his last ball, the last ball he's got in his bag, with effectively his career on the line, and obviously this is where it deviates from my, what I feel is similar to Josh Allen. Josh Allen's career is nowhere near close to being over. But for Roy in the movie, like, this is a problem. If he doesn't finish this tournament, next year for him is going to be an issue. Roy swings, he drops his ball, swings, and he makes the impossible shot that he knew in his heart, that he believed in his arm, he knew that he could make. He hold it out from there. Regardless of his score, regardless of what happened before, regardless of how many times or tries it took him to get there, this was the time that worked. 6 shots, if you were keeping count. 6 in the movie. Every time Roy knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that he could make that shot, he loaded up and he took the swing instead of taking the winning shot that was the easy shot It was the layup right in front of him. Eventually, he made the shot. Eventually, he makes the throw. Of course, he lost the tournament, but it was an amazing shot, and the crowd cheered, and everybody's like, he's amazing, and this is why he's amazing. But 1 in 6 tries, 1 successful shot. Would you rather 1 in 6, or would you rather 6 for 6 or 5? Would you rather 3? 50% chance versus 1 for 6. It should sound familiar, like, to all of you, what, like, this movie. And if you haven't seen Tin Cup, go watch it. It's a lot of fun. I'm not a huge Kevin Costner fan, but it's a fun movie. There is never one option, getting back to Josh Allen. There's never one option for a pass play for Josh Allen on a called pass play. There's never one. Oh, there's only one receiver. There's only one. I mean, I guess there could be if it's a heavy set with one receiver, one tight end, and something changes inside of the audible. But generally speaking, on a pass play, there's at least 2 receivers or potential receivers, whether it's a tight end or a running back, that are going out and running routes. Sometimes there's 5. Sometimes there's more than that. Potentially, maybe 6, I guess. But generally somewhere between 2 and 5. There's multiple. We'll just call it multiple. Over and over again, it seems like Josh chooses the hard throw over the layup. And he does it to himself. He did it in this football game against the Texans. We saw him do it last year in the Jets when he was forcing footballs down the field for no apparent reason that got picked off. Josh chooses the 237-yard 7-iron over the water more than he chooses I'm going to grab my wedge and hit it 90 yards so that I've got a 140-yard shot in. I'm going to choose the difficult, almost impossible, low percentage shot because I believe in me. And there's a lot of me that's like, that's the quarterback I want. I want the quarterback that believes in himself. I want the quarterback that's going to throw that football on Thanksgiving Day against the Lions into basically a pinhole and hit Stephon Diggs in the chest to put us in field goal range. We need to have that guy that can throw that football. I just don't need it as often as I'm getting it, for lack of a better way of saying it. And sometimes, just like with Roy McAvoy, he goes 1 for 6 instead of 6 for 6 or 5 for 6, 4 for 6 or 3 for 6. Keeping the chains moving is the most important thing until you score a touchdown. And at the end of the day, a lot of those big impressive throws are MVP throws. But the reality is if you're consistent, like, I don't know, throw another quarterback in there that hits the underneath consistent stuff all the time, like Lamar Jackson is doing. It's funny because Lamar is getting the MVPs. And I said to Jerry yesterday, I don't care about the MVP anymore. I want to win the Super Bowl. Like, I don't want to chant MVP. I don't want to hear the Bills Mafia chant MVP. I don't want to see MVP on Twitter. I don't care about MVP. I don't give a crap about that at this point. I don't care about the crazy. We're going to get crazy throws from Josh, but I need the winning layups too. And I need more of them. I need a lot more of the winning layups. There were winning layups in that football game against the Texans. The ball that he threw, I don't remember if it was first or second down, to Hardy from the end zone. He had MBS on a perfectly easy pass. It would have been a first down. He chose the hard throw. That was consequently the scene where McDermott immediately afterwards is going, we need a first down here. Like, what are we doing? And I know what you're going to tell me. Nobody was getting open in this football game. It's somewhat true, somewhat not true. The wide receivers weren't winning. It still just doesn't make sense in a lot of situations for Josh. I'm not saying to Trent Edwards it and some of the other quarterbacks we've seen during the drought where, it's 3rd and 7 and you're throwing a 2-yard out. I'm not talking about that. That's not the conversation we're having. We're having a conversation about when there's an easy throw there to get the job done, a winning throw, a winning high percentage throw. You make that throw. You put the 7-iron away and you make the shot you got to make. Versus putting it up there and the world going, oh my gosh, it's going to happen. And then the inevitable high percentage defensive tip away, dropped football, off target, whatever you sack, whatever you want to call, or whatever you want to say is going to happen. Seemingly not all the time, often Josh Allen chooses the hardest throw that he could possibly make. I know that's just my eyes. I'm sure that there's percentages, and I'm sure that there's content creators going to come out and tell me that I'm wrong. It is what it is. But when you watch things and you watch certain plays, there's easy throws there to make. The easy throws there to make that Josh sometimes avoids. And what's funny is that throw, that big throw that he can make, that big throw in the Lions game. That is exactly the throw that drives us crazy, fanatically crazy about Josh Allen. And at the same time, when it gets missed, more oftentimes than not, Josh Allen is not and has not been for a couple years a great deep ball thrower. It's a fact. Look at the numbers. Josh Allen has not been a great deep ball thrower. I know he's got the cannon for it. I know he's got the accuracy for it. So what is it? Is it the situation? Is it the receiver? Is it him? Does he need to stop throwing frozen ropes? I know the frozen rope 55 yards down the field is the impressive throw, but the rainbow seems to be a little more effective. C.J. Stroud and Nico Collins yesterday. In the Texans game, Josh Allen should have laid up a lot. He wouldn't have ended up with 9 completions on 30 attempts or whatever it was. He probably would have had a whole lot more. But I want to finish this episode, the show, The Aftermath, the second ever episode of The Aftermath. And again, I thank all of you for joining me. Just talking about the wide receivers real quick, and then I'm going to get you guys out of here. The wide receivers, wide receiver by committee, everybody eats. A bunch of guys not worried about individual stats. How'd that work out for you when Stephon Diggs had more yards receiving than all of your wide receivers had in one game? We don't need to feed any one singular ego the football. And again, it comes back to questions. I had questions before the season about this wide receiver room, and I had questions about everybody eats and wide receiver by committee, and we all kind of got on board with it. And some of us were asking the question, and nobody was against it. What if they can't get open? And now we've watched 2 weeks in a row where they can't get open. So, what's next? How do we fix this? Can it be fixed by the end of the season? Do you make a move? Do you make a trade? Are the Bills working the phones? Is there a come to Jesus meeting with Joe Brady, who seemingly doesn't know how to use the weapons he has appropriately? Are we watching Ken Dorsey 2.0? Does there need to be a stronger voice in Josh's ear, who I believe does what Josh wants to do when Josh is out there on the field? And there isn't a Brian Daboll figure out there basically calling him to the carpet when he comes back to the sideline? There's a lot going on in this. I'm not saying it's over. I'm not saying that we're in a situation where the season's lost. It's definitely not. But can it be fixed? The Buffalo Bills had scored 13 points in 6 quarters at halftime in their last 6 quarters by halftime yesterday. 13. They'd been outscored 52-13. It looked like after the first 3 games, well, I should say 2.5 games, because the first half of the Cardinals game also did not go well. It looked like after 2.5 games that everybody eats, wide receiver by committee was going to work. I'm not so sure it's going to work. So let's just talk about the wide receivers real quick. Khalil Shakir. I love this kid. I love Khalil Shakir. I love the energy. I love the positivity. I love who he is. Shakir was missed in this football game and will most likely be missed this week too, with a continued, high ankle sprain. Ankle sprains take several weeks to heal. More than likely, he's not going to be back this week. Hopefully he is, but I wouldn't expect it. He's a reliable pass catcher who can get open often. He's not a consistent flash player, but a player who can flash. He's a solid piece of the puzzle that the Bills need to have on the field if they're going to win football games. Khalil, you can't argue necessarily looking at Joe Brady and the game plans. You can't and Josh Allen's commitment to him. You can't argue that Shakir is doing well, that the Bills are using him somewhat appropriately. Keon Coleman. Keon is a rookie who looks a lot of times like a rookie. He got drilled in the back of the head by a football yesterday. That play surmised the Bills' offense in the last 2 weeks. 100% surmised it. I tweeted as such. It possibly very well could have been the best throw that Josh Allen made in that whole football game. I mean, he hit him square in the back of the head. But right now, it just seems like for Keon Coleman, the game at times, not all the time, is maybe just a little bit too big for him. And that could change in an instant, right? We saw the touchdown play, and as he ran the right route and did the comeback and shook the defender and then tiptoed down the sideline. I mean, it's right there, but sometimes it just seems like it might be just a little too big for him. He looks like a rookie most of the time, which the Buffalo Bills right now can't afford for him to look like a rookie. They just can't. I saw somebody on Twitter say that, he needs to kind of be the fourth option. He probably is, but for all intents and purposes, you're kind of getting out of Keon Coleman what you see with your eyes, right? I mean, that's who he is right now. Curtis bubble screen Samuel. I put a tweet out. Yesterday that basically said, it was the idea was that Curtis Samuel walked up to Joe Brady and was like, "Hey, coach, I can do more than bubble screens. I can actually run a whole route tree. Like, I'm pretty good at this football thing." And Joe Brady, I had the gif of the "but why" gif, like Joe Brady responding to him, "But why? Why would we have you run route tree stuff when we can throw bubble screens at you that don't work?" Rough. My question is have they asked Curtis Samuel if he can run other routes besides the wide receiver screen? I think Bruce Nolan put out a list of all the routes that he ran, and he was effective on like all of them, and they didn't throw the football to him. The reality is, in this situation, we don't have a Curtis Samuel problem. We've got a Joe Brady problem when it comes to Curtis Samuel. Curtis Samuel should be the number one wide receiver on this football team, maybe right there with Shakir. Those should be the two guys and Kincaid that are getting the ball the most from a passing standpoint. And there's no way to sum it up any other way than that. But Joe Brady, just for whatever reason, either doesn't use him correctly, or doesn't know how to use him. Mac Hollins. I love the energy. I love the vibe. I love all of the stuff, the B-roll stuff and the side stories. But there's a reason that Mac Hollins is a journeyman player. I'm sorry. Love you, Mac. I love you being on our football team. But there's a reason that Mac Hollins is a journeyman player. Barefoot, the barefoot vibes and everybody taking off their shoes and, all that stuff. But the reality is executing and winning is better than bare feet. You've got to win on the football field. You've got to win your routes. You've got to catch footballs. And you probably shouldn't be getting targeted as much as you are getting targeted. Big stature, big dude, positive. You want to root for him. But my guess is that every place that Mac Hollins has been, when he gets there, the vibes are way up. All the preseason OTA, camp, mini camp, training camp stuff. The vibes. Everybody's barefoot. It's great. Barefoot this, barefoot that. My guess is the teammates, everywhere he goes, that first year, fall in love with him. The press falls in love with him. He's great. Look at it. And then when the games start getting played, there's a reason the vibes fall away, and eventually he's on his way to another football team. Stop me if I'm wrong, or just turn me off, whatever. And the reality is with MVS, that experiment's over. It's over. There's nothing left there for me to even pay attention to other than I want them to stop throwing the football to him. And even when he is open and is uncontested, they don't throw the football to him. So whatever, right? Regardless, and I'm going to get you guys out of here. Regardless, it's hard to not believe the Bills I'm going to wrap it all up with this. It's hard to follow me here. It's hard to believe that the Buffalo Bills, who struck gold one time with a journeyman wide receiver in John Brown, don't feel like this is something that they can duplicate. It feels like very much we're going to find another John Brown and we're going to do it again. We're going to find another guy that isn't very expensive, that is a journeyman that people have overlooked, and we're going to nail it with this guy, just like we did with John Brown, which even with having John Brown, we still went out and brought in Stephon Diggs. Regardless, look at the players: Sherfield, Hardy, Hollins, Samuel, MVS, Jake Kumaro, Jamison Crowder, Andy and Isabella. And I know that teams have to bring in free agent wide receivers, but this is the plan this year. This is the plan. The plan is these guys. These guys, this is the plan they came into the season with, and one of these dudes is going to leap off the page. That was the plan. Or all of them potentially are going to leap off the page. I don't even know where you go from here. I started the wide receiver question with, how do you fix it? And until Joe Brady, Josh Allen, the wide receiver room, and Dalton Kincaid get on the same page and get some synergy and some understanding on how guys are. We love to run plays that the guys, we ask the players. I asked the players, what's your favorite play? What plays do you like to run? What makes you comfortable? How, if you were going to play or you're going to run a route, which route would you run? Where are these routes? Where are these routes that these guys, look, I'm really good at this route. This is the route I can run and win every time. We saw those routes get taken away from Stephon Diggs last year. Joe Brady did it to Stephon. Hey, I don't want you to run all those routes that you've been wildly successful for on the Bills for 3.5 years. We're now going to have you run a bunch of different things. Stephon Diggs hated it. The nail was probably already in the coffin, but it definitely sent him completely out the door at that point in time. Where's the synergy? Where's the creativity? Where is the imposing your offensive will on a defense? Where is everybody eats? Where is wildly negative conversation? And I apologize. The Buffalo Bills are 3-2. I'm going to wrap this thing up. The Buffalo Bills are 3-2. The reality is they're in first place of the AFC East. They've got some trouble. Houston, we have a problem. They've got some trouble that can be fixed. Can they right the ship? Yes, they can get this thing back on the path that it needs to be at. They got a tough game coming up in New Jersey against the Jets this week. Tough game. And you can pretty much expect to see the Bills offense do what it's done in the last 2 weeks. Lack of motion, lack of creativity, forcing the ball down the field to guys because we know that Robert Saleh does to Josh Allen what Josh Allen hates, makes him be patient. And Josh Allen believes in his arm. One throw, Josh. Just one throw. But the reality is once we get past this Jets game, things get, for the most part, convincingly easier outside of a couple of games. And nobody thought the Buffalo Bills were going to go undefeated this year. Nobody. The good news is the Buffalo Bills should win the AFC East. The question is can they find some semblance of synergy on offense to get them to advance into the playoffs? Or is this going to be another one and done or second game and ousted by the Ravens or the Chiefs or the Texans? We're going to find out. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been tuned into the Aftermath with the voice. I am the voice of the Aftermath. My name is Joe Miller. So good to have you join me for this episode. Appreciate you guys. Went a little bit long. I'm sorry. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully it wasn't too negative. But sometimes you got to talk negative. It just is what it is. But ladies and gentlemen, for me, for John, for Jerry, we appreciate you guys. Please like, please subscribe, please tell a friend. We'll talk to you guys soon. Go Bills.